Hey guys and gals. I'm going to walk you through the lesson today just because it's going to be a little chaotic with some people downstairs, some people upstairs, some people at home. I just thought it might be easier to have a video file that we could go back to if we get kind of lost and maybe I'm upstairs and you need help and you're downstairs or vice versa. So I'm going to walk you through how to get your clip, how to get your raw material off your recorder and onto your computer, and how to start organizing it so you can make your Vox Pop. So if you go in and open that little flap in your recorder where this little gem is hiding, you want to retrieve it. So you're gonna actually kind of pop it with your finger, pop it like it's hot, and it's gonna stick out. Then you're just gonna snatch and run. And I'm gonna give you one of these mommy devices. It's a little bit bigger. It's an adapter. You'll reunite them, and then this will go in the computer, and I'll have to show you where that goes. But if you have a laptop and you don't have an SD port, I have some cables that we can use to make the transfer happen as well. All right, so now I'm going to show you the next step, which will be to create a folder on the desktop called Vox Pop. So let's take a look. All right, I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Sorry, this doesn't want me to show you something here. Don't know why it's doing this. Just fast forward me. Here we go. All right. So hopefully you can see the whole screen here. This is Audacity, which is the program we're going to use. I'm going to move that. But you'll see I have a little folder here. I'm going to put the file in, put the SD card in, and you'll see over here it's in the stereo, or in the D port SD card. The first folder is called stereo. Double click that. The next folder is folder 1, and inside there finally is our track. Okay, we're going to rename that, but we don't have to do that right now. I'm just going to actually drag it into the program. So the desktop computers here on campus already have this loaded. You'll see the little icon right here that should be on the desktop. You can just double click that, it'll open, and then you drag the file in, and it'll ask you if you want to make a copy. Yes, you do. Just hit OK. There it goes. It's loading. And then the first thing I want to do is file and save the project, because we want to name it. We don't want to lose any work that we do as we go along. So this is the first time. So save project as, just hit OK. And we want to put it in that folder that we created on the desktop. I was going to have you save it in your little HD or SD card, but honestly, that thing's so tiny, I'm just afraid that if we lose it, we might be in trouble. And since you're going to be using the same computer probably the whole time you work on this, we don't need to do that. So we're going to go in here. Let's rename it now down here and just call it Vox Pop. Make sure you keep that that AUP at the end there. That's the type of file it is. And I don't really need a space, so I'll hit save, and now we're ready to work. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the steps that we're going to take. This will take me probably about 10 minutes. If you already know how to use the program, or you're a fast learner, you can skip ahead to just the parts that you need to know. So actually, the very first thing I'm going to do is convert this from a stereo track to what's called a mono track. And a stereo track means that they're the sound was captured realistically. So if somebody was standing on this side of me, it's going to be louder in this ear and quieter in this ear. That's kind of nice for like movie effects and stuff like that, but we want people to be really as loud in both ears as possible, or as clear in both ears as possible. So I'm going to split this. If you want to know more about that, you can ask me, but it's customary for like spoken word pieces to have a mono track. So I split it to mono. These are the same track. They might just be slightly, different in terms of how much sound they picked up. It doesn't really matter which one I pick because I'm going to clean up the tracks quite a bit later. I'm actually going to delete this one because I can see that this one's a little bit louder. So what are we looking at? This is actually the visual representation of the sound that you recorded. I'm zooming in now. Sound is vibration. It's vibration. These are waves of sound, and so we can see the different crests and kind of peaks and dips of that. This is actually a good way to see where there's action. If you ended up just standing around for part of the time waiting for people, you'll see a kind of flat line or just a little bit of activity, just the outdoor sound probably. So these are actually the parts where people are speaking, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through and listen, and I'm going to worry about kind of cleaning and polishing this when I'm all done. Right now I'm just interested in getting the parts that I want to keep. Okay. So one way to kind of keep track of all this stuff, because you might have 20-30 minutes of tape, and we want to condense that to about 1.5 to 2.5 minutes. So we're going to have to cut a lot, right? So for tracks, I'm going to go up to tracks, and I'm going to add one below it, actually, and it's going to be a mono track. And I'm going to rename it here, and I'm going to name it Keepers. This is going to be my kind of first pass through the tape. I'm just going to grab stuff that I think is pretty good that I know I want to keep for later. And then later I can start to kind of organize those pieces, because I'm going to pick an order at some point where they go for my final cut. So this is my little default kind of like selection tool that's highlighted here. I can just put the playhead anywhere and start. But I'm going to hit record. I'm not going to stop recording the entire time. So this is my little intro where I was giving you guys instruction. We don't want that to play in the final vox pop, right? So I'm kind of looking ahead to see maybe where the action might start. This looks like a nice long stretch. Let's see if this is where I ask my first question. So 2020, it's been a dumpster fire. Give me the silver lining, something that was good this year.
Going back to school.
Okay. I don't know if I like the sound of my question in that clip, and I know that I ask it many other times, so I'm just going to wait to see if there's a better version of that. But I do like the response here. We have a good answer about school, so I'm going to cut this out. Now, I don't want the necessarily. This should be kind of quick and snappy with the responses, so I'm just going to cut that part out. Now, there's a cool thing you can do here where you can just kind of like
going back to school.
Hear that little section. I just kind of like clicked here and dragged the playhead over.
Going back to school.
Okay.
Going back to school.
Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this. So I'm clicking now, and I'm dragging across.
Going back to school.
That's what I want. And I'm now going to cut that out. So there's a shortcut for this that I want you to learn. It's really important. It's Control-I. On a Mac, I think it's Command-I. Okay. And what that does is it just kind of slices it on each side, so that now we can take our selection tool, or our time shift tool rather, this little knick-knack here, and we can just move it down. Okay. So honestly, I don't know that I want this. I don't have to trash it right now. I can just kind of keep marching through and throwing stuff down on this next Keepers track. Now, this will probably start to fill up. So you might start wondering at the end of the day, like, what have I kept? You know, do I have to listen to all this all over again? Well, if you're interested and you're kind of an organizational person like me, you could do a new track and call it label. Actually, I want to make sure I'm selected down here. So it goes underneath new track, add new, label. And right underneath that now I have a track where I can kind of label the clips. So the way to do that is go back to your selection tool, double click on the track, and you hit Control B. Control B as in boy. And now I can say school, okay? Go back up here. Let's put the playhead over here.
Okay. How about you, sir? The food was pretty good.
Okay, the food was pretty good. Let's say, man, that sounds good. Maybe I want to keep that. Let's make sure I selected it correctly.
The food was pretty good.
All right, I might move that in just a little bit to get rid of the See how it sounds now.
The food was pretty good.
Okay, well, that's okay. So again, Control I, cut it out, grab this little tool, drag it down. Okay, I can move it over so that it's a little bit closer to where the other one is. And then double click it, Control B, food. Okay, so I'm starting to kind of label these responses so that later when I come back to the keepers and I make another pass through, I can maybe look at all the answers that talk about school, all the answers that talk about food, and just pick my favorite ones if you have lots of them, you know, they're the same. So you can kind of start to get an organization method going as you move through it. All right, so that's really the goal for today, is to start kind of going through the tape, getting your project, you know, started, saved in a folder, starting to formulate your keepers track. And then later we'll make tracks maybe for the different types of responses and put our keepers in there, and they'll be organized, and we'll choose a kind of final order of things, and you'll write some narration to kind of glue those different sections of your piece together, and that'll be it. So so for now I'm just going to do file and save. You can also do this as you work, Control S, and that will save it as you go. So a couple key commands again, Control I to cut out the clips, Control B to create a label if you have a label track set up, and Control S to save. So I should be able now to close this, and it'll be in my folder. Next time I need it, I can just go in and click on the track and get it started up again. So if you have questions, feel free to you know, run upstairs if you're downstairs, or you know, contact me on Zoom or whatever, or just come grab me if you're on campus. So good luck, and I'll see you soon.